Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I'm here today to bring you my weekly reads video. This is the video where I discuss what I read last week, what I'm currently reading, and what I hope to get to during the current week. This past reading week was pretty good. I mean, it was average. I finished a couple of books. I really enjoyed most of what I read, so I couldn't really ask for any more. I do have a couple of quick just book-related things that I wanted to mention to you guys before I jump into the books. One, as I was driving to work this morning, my local radio station has decided to start a monthly book club where they discuss the book on air, and viewer participation is welcomed, and it sounds like a lot of fun. However, when they announced what book they were reading, I had to change the station because they just kept annoying me with the pronunciations of things. So they ended up picking A Man Called Uva by Frederick Bachman, and they kept saying A Man Called Ove, which I know even myself I had trouble with, but then they kept saying Frederick Bachman, and it just was so irritating that I had to change the channel. I know it wasn't their fault. Obviously, they don't know how to pronounce it. They're not prolific readers or anything as far as I know, so I understand, but just someone who is in the book world over here, it was just driving me crazy. But I'm really glad they decided to pick that book up because it was a fantastic book, and I can't wait to hear when they actually have their discussions on it because it was such a great book. So I applaud them for picking such a good book and at least kind of expanding their radio station, because really it's popular music that they play, and it's not something that you would think that a regular radio station would play. So I'm absolutely ecstatic that they're doing it. Just the pronunciation was driving me crazy. Then my second little book story that I have to tell you guys is actually kind of funny. My daughter Brooke was reading a Henry and Mudge book. I don't know if you guys remember them from when you were growing up. They're just cute little stories about this boy and his dog. In this book that she was reading, Henry and Mudge were putting up posters, I think because there was a lost cat or something, and she turns to me and she goes, "Mom, I thought this was a kid's book." And I'm like, "It is. Why? What's the matter?" And she goes, "Well, they're putting up these posters and it says they went into the grocery store and then they went into the drugstore." I died laughing. I thought that was hilarious. She thought that they were selling drugs, like real hardcore drugs at this drugstore, and she could not understand why it was in a book for children. And I had to explain to her what a drugstore actually was, or even is still today. We around here don't really call it the drugstore. We don't say we're going to the drugstore. So she's never really heard that term. But it was just so funny and so innocent and just hilarious. And I thought you guys would enjoy that story. But anyway, enough of my babbling. Let's get into these books. As always, I'm going to start with my lowest ranked book and work my way to my highest. My lowest ranked book this week was still a great read, and that was Is Everybody Hanging Out Without Me by Mindy Kaling. I actually listened to this on audiobook. This is another nonfiction. I've been on a roll with nonfiction books lately. I definitely enjoyed this. I rated it 3.5 stars. I will say it's somewhere between Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, which I rated 3 stars, and Amy Poehler's Yes Please, which I rated like 5 stars for me. I think with Tina Fey's book, my problem was I think the stories themselves weren't as entertaining to me as I was hoping they would be. Her delivery was really great, but just her overall stories weren't what I was looking for. With Mindy Kaling's book, I found that her stories were really great. I really love her sense of humor, and her stories were pretty clean as well. There wasn't a lot of foul language or anything, whereas there was in Tina Fey's and Amy Poehler's books, which doesn't really bother me, but when I'm trying to listen to it as an audiobook, I felt comfortable being able to listen to the majority of Mindy Kaling's out loud with my children around me. I didn't find that I had to listen to it with headphones on or anything like that, so I did enjoy that more. There were a few parts, with dating and things like that got a little racier, but as far as actual foul language goes, there wasn't a lot of that in there. So I felt comfortable at least listening to the majority of the book out loud. But I found with her book also that her stories were just really well put together, and I absolutely love the Mindy Project, which she is the head writer and creator of, and I love those kinds of stories, and I felt she kind of still had that same brand of humor in these stories that she was telling about her own life. The only thing I will say is I felt that her narration was just lacking a little bit. It felt a little lackluster. She just kind of felt a little bit more subdued and monotoned, whereas both Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were much more lively, and I felt like were a little more entertaining as far as the narration went. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I think she has a second book out that I am definitely going to go on today onto Overdrive and request, so I can listen to that soon. Oh, and the audiobook was only about 4 hours long, so especially if you're listening to it faster than normal speed, it's a very quick listen. So I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of Mindy Kaling's. I just love her little stories, especially about her best friend Mavis and stuff. I thought that story was really great. So if you are a fan, or if you just like celebrity memoirs, I would definitely give it a listen. I don't have the first line because it is an audiobook. The next book that I want to talk about is one that I loved, and that was Shadow House by Dan Plobacki. This is book 1, The Gathering. I love this. This was a middle grade horror novel. This is about a bunch of kids who each receive an invitation to arrive at a destination. Some think it's going to be a school, others think that a movie is being filmed there, someone else thinks that her long lost aunt wants to have her come live with her. So they're all receiving these invitations differently, but they all show up at the same time, and they soon kind of realize that maybe this house is not normal. There's something going on here. I won't give any more away because it's definitely, you know, something that you have to kind of experience for yourself, because that's part of the fun, is just turning those pages trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Really loved it, and I absolutely loved the cosmetics of this book. As you can see, the cover is just something that I've never seen before. I just absolutely love that, and you know me, I love horror novels. The inside end papers as well were stunning. The back is completely covered. Then as you're reading along, each page kind of looks like it was burnt in a fire, which I thought was just a great touch. And then there's these creepy photos as you go throughout the book. My youngest, Brooke, was actually looking through it because she wants to read it eventually, so I think I'm going to buy this one and book 2, just because I heard book 2 is just as good as book 1, and I think she'll love it. And she just takes a little while reading because she's only 7, and I might have to help her read, and don't want to read right at bedtime because it's kind of scary and I don't want to give her nightmares. So I caught her looking through it, and she was looking at all the creepy pictures, and she just loved it. I mean, she was a little freaked out by a couple of them, but she actually, you know, loved it. She's my daughter. She likes the scare factor, and being scared by the book is safer than being scared in real life, so she's all about it. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. Gave it 4 stars. The first line in this book is, "Whenever Poppy Caldwell glanced in a mirror, she saw another girl standing behind her." The last book that I want to talk about is one that I found fascinating, and that was Columbine by Dave Cullen. I gave this book 4 stars. I thought it was very well put together. The author did a ton of research in order to be able to do this. He includes a foreword that tells you what everything means in the book, you know, some of the font, and whether it's in italics or in quotation marks. He also clearly explains that when this first happened, he got a lot of things wrong as he was part of the media. He got a lot of things wrong as well as the media got a lot of things wrong, but he has taken the time to go back and kind of find out the truth and correct those things, and I think he really did a good job about that. This obviously is the account of what happened during the Columbine shootings. I was in high school when it happened, so I remember all of the stories that were kind of put out as they were coming out, and it was really interesting to go back and see that a lot of those things that I still had in my mind, those, you know, conceptions that I thought were real, I thought that was really what happened, were not what happened at all. It was just very fascinating to see how much the media really did get wrong in those first couple of weeks. I really enjoyed the way he formatted the book. He followed not only the killer's story, he told the events as well, but he followed some of the victims, and he followed some of the family members of some of the victims, just to kind of give you a full scope, a full picture of what went on during these events. I found it very easy to get through. I thought the writing was very accessible, and the way he formatted it, you weren't with one storyline for too long. He kind of jumped around, and that is what I think kept my interest so much. It is still quite large. It's about 400 pages, so it does still take a while to get through. But for the content and for it being nonfiction. I found it so well put together. So I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of true crime or if you're just interested in the account of what happened during these horrible shootings. The first line in this book is, "A great deal of the story was captured on tape or recorded contemporaneously in notebooks and journals by the killers before the murders and by investigators, journalists, and researchers afterward." Now onto what I'm currently reading. So I decided to get caught up in our hashtag on the booktube shelves May pick. I was so far behind, I just hadn't had the chance to actually pick it up, but it is such a quick read that I caught up all in one day. And that is If You Only Knew by Kristan Higgins. So I ended up stopping on page 205. That is where I needed to read up to give my update. I'm actually going to record it after this video because it's still fresh in my mind, so I'll be able to record it, and then I'm posting it on Saturday. So if you guys are following along, please look for that. I'm actually really enjoying this. I didn't think I would, but I actually really am. So if you want to hear more details, watch that update. The other book that I'm currently reading is The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery. This is a nonfiction book. I'm killing it with nonfiction this month so far. I really am. Between audiobooks and actually picking up nonfiction books, I'm getting so into them lately. I don't know what it is, but I'm loving it. This book so far, I'm only a few pages into it, but I'm really enjoying what I'm reading. I love the cover of this book, and I absolutely love this little, if you guys can see, watch. They included this little flip through that you could see the octopus move as you flip through it. I just thought that was such a fun touch, and I can't wait to show Brooke when I see her later because she will absolutely love that fact as well. So definitely looking forward to finishing this. I will let you guys know what I think next week. So now onto what I hope to read for the rest of the week. I actually don't know what I'm going to be in the mood for. I'm just gonna kind of let my mood dictate which type of book I pick up, but I have a stack of library books and each of them is really from a different genre. So if I'm in the mood for something, I have a book that I can go to and I can pick up. The first one is a children's classic, and that is Anne of Green Gables. I have not read this book. I really want to because the Netflix series has come out and I want to watch it, but I want to know the original story first. So definitely want to get to this one soon. We'll see how that goes though. If I'm in the mood for fantasy, I have Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. If I'm in the mood for contemporary, I have Shelter. If I'm in the mood for horror, I can pick up either an adult horror, which is Horns by Joe Hill, or I could pick up a YA thriller / horror, and that's These Shallow Graves by Jennifer Donnelly. The last book is a YA fantasy, which I read last year. I can't remember if I actually read it the full way through. I know I read the majority of it, and I didn't hate it. I just wasn't loving it, so I think I just kind of put it down. I'm not sure. I may have finished it, or I may have just asked my daughter how it ended. I don't know. But so many people now with the third book having come out have been raving about the whole series as a whole, and most people that I talk to have told me that the second book is much better than the first. So I'm going to give it another try, if for nothing else, to just say I read it and I really didn't like it, because then people can accept that I didn't like it. If I read the whole thing, if I completed it and even tried book 2, then I can really say without a shadow of a doubt it wasn't for me. Or maybe I'll be really surprised and say, wow, you guys were right, book 2 was so much better than book 1 and I'm really into this series now. We will see. Don't get your hopes up. But that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know how I'll feel, but I'm willing to give it another try. So that's everything I have for you guys this week. What did you read? Did you read anything that you absolutely love? Have you read any of these books? Let me know down in those comments below. I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.